Uh, but like you were saying, yes, this starting to understand what depression looks like, feels like,
Yeah.
personally,
Yeah.
going through that. That's definitely been something to get used to,
Yeah.
definitely grasp that a lot more
Recently?
now. Yeah, without a doubt. Especially, with the loss of my father.
Hmm.
Finally just being able to sit with all of that.
It's a lot
Um,
to sit with. Yeah.
it is. It is, so at the end of the day, these are the lessons we learn. We figure them out as we go, and we just hope for the best, right?
Yeah. And I feel like it's probably hard for me and you because we've always been like, let's get shit done. What's the plan? Let's keep moving.
Yep.
And ever since COVID and ever since I lost my job, all of it went out the window. And I had to reevaluate all of my life.
Mm-hmm.
Everything. I've started like dismantling everything, dismantling the matrix, dismantling corporate life, dismantling all the goalposts that I've done for myself. All of it just went out the window.
No doubt. No
And
doubt.
so I'm at that point, then then you hit depression, then you hit addiction, and then I'm just realizing that I never understood those things of mental health before. Because I've
Mm.
always been a type of person to be like, well, just push through it. Like, why are you sitting there depressed? Why are you sitting there not doing shit? Get your ass up and go do it. So I've always been that mentality of pushing.
Yeah.
But really, when I'm pushing it, I'm ignoring all of it.
Yeah. Well, what happens is you're spitting into the wind.
Yeah.
You push depression away.
Yeah.
It's not something that can be pushed away. It's something that slowly envelops you,
Yep.
and it slowly has to recede.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
takes time. It takes time coming in, just like a wave, and
Yeah.
it takes time going out.
Yeah.
And that wave can last years,
Yeah.
literally years.
Yeah.
Going through some of that pain is just really difficult. But for individuals like us, we're able to get through it, and then we're able to be that much better for others.
Yeah.
We now understand it. We know what they're
Because now
going
we understand it. Yeah, that's the thing. Because I never understood it before. And I used to always push one of my girlfriends. I just never understood why she just couldn't push herself through it. And I'm
Yeah.
like, think it, do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I know, as if it was that easy, right?
Yeah, that was always my mentality. You got a plan, just do it. Put the actions, right?
I mean, not
But
for
now,
nothing. For the longest, I thought it was a weakness.
yes, but that's the thing. Like me and you would think like that's a weakness. Why can't you get through it? But now I understand what depression is, because when it envelops you, it just completely covers you. And like I lost desire
Yeah.
to
No doubt.
do anything, everything. And I'm sitting there like, what the fuck is this? Like,
Yeah.
I have no desire to do anything. And I was starting to get really worried about myself. I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't have a desire to do anything. I don't have a desire to do this, that. I'm like, this is not good. Like, thank God at some point I finally realized, fuck, I'm depressed.
Yeah. By the time you're so deep into it that it's like swimming, in the ocean.
You're slowly drowning.
So deep.
Yeah.
Like, holy shit, that shoreline is so far away.
Yes.
Like, nothing is near me.
Mm-hmm.
The water's getting heavier.
Mm-hmm.
A storm coming in. It's starting to get cold, and you just start to feel all of these things, and it just kind of compounds. The way depression works.
Yeah.
It takes a minute. You don't realize it until you are absolutely inside of it.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously individuals who have gone through it, a few times or throughout their life, they're much better at recognizing these things. They can see the triggers and feel the triggers before it happens.
Yeah.
Individuals who don't have a lot of experience with it don't know until you know.
No, I've never known. Like, did you get into a depression? Did you feel it?
Yeah.
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 Recently?
Still feel it.
Yeah. So that's how I feel. And just looking at you, I can see that too. And I'm sure you can see it in me. Like, I was speaking to Sunrise, and I'm sure she can see it in my eyes as I'm doing podcasts too. Like, there's a little emptiness.
Mm-hmm.
There's a light that's a little bit dimmer.
No doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt. So one of the things for me, like, I totally recognize that myself. And here was where, like I was saying earlier, I don't feel great, but well enough to start moving again.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I know, like everything else, you got to get into it. You got to go through it. You got to
Yeah.
shake the rust off. You got to go through a few things. And then you finally start to build momentum. And hey, I feel a little better. And,
Hmm.
it doesn't feel as heavy and
Yeah.
whatever. It takes a minute. And this is me. This is the first time that I've been recording since. I think you were my last one early in the year,
Yeah.
right before I got the news about my father. And this is the first one I'm coming back to at the end.
Really,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah,
Wow. Well, I'm
I haven't
honored
messed
that
with
you can.
anybody and anything. I just haven't done it. I've just been
Well,
taking
I
myself.
thank you for being vulnerable to be able to sit with me and chat about this, because it's a really, really difficult thing, like we said before, to lose a parent, even if that parent wasn't always there for us. And we've had difficult times, and there was trauma and generational trauma that's happened from it that's affected us and also affected how we were,
Yeah.
because we have similarities where we've kind of just put our abuse and trauma to the side, not
Mhm.
think about it, so we can accomplish all the goals that we needed to accomplish.
Yep. So that
Then
we
when you get to a point where you're successful and you've accomplished all those goals, I sat in a place where, well, I'm like, what now? Am I happy? You know, it's like, what now? Okay, now I've lost the job. Was that really what I wanted? Like, am I happy? Like, I've accomplished these goals that I've set for myself and pushed myself to like prestige as well, also to know, let people know that I am good, I've accomplished these goals. But then when you accomplish them, you're like, well, really, what was I doing it for? Was I doing it to please them? Am I any happier for it? And then you start like dismantling your whole life, and you're like,
Yep.
oh shit.
No, that's exactly right. That's exactly what happens. We kind of get caught in just a mix of busyness and doing things,
Yeah.
but it's not necessarily the things we need to be doing.
Yeah, and
That's the difference.
it's
Busy
not
work.
totally fulfilling us.
Yeah, no, that like I said, that's the difference between busy work and needle moving work. The thing
Yeah.
that move the needle in your life, in whatever way, whatever capacity. Oftentimes we just stay busy.
Yeah.
We're not doing the things that we most need and
Yeah.
require.
Yeah. And that's what I realized through these past couple of years. I think since 2020, I think the whole year 2020, I was just, I need to make money.
Yeah.
Ever since my divorce, my main goal always was, I need to support my family and my kids. So it's me and only me. So let me figure out how to make money, how to survive. So I'm just swimming to survive.
Mhm.
And then eventually you get to a point where you're like, I can't just keep doing all this busy work. Like, it's not fulfilling me as a person. And you have like, a mental, psychological, probably a crisis. And you're like, I can't keep doing those busy work.
Yep. No, that's exactly right.
Yeah, like I want to do things that fulfill me and also help other people.
Hmm.
And I think being vulnerable on this podcast and you speaking about losing your father, I think these conversations will move that needle.
Yeah, for us as well as for others.
Yeah.
They're definitely going to hear themselves. They're going to recognize some of it, and then they're also just going to feel like, all right, if some of these people, that
Yeah.
I know, some of these people that I look up to, some of these people that I aspire to, some of these people who are doing well,
Mhm.
if they're having some trouble as well, and they're willing to talk about it and they're willing to share about it, maybe it's okay for me to do the same.
Yes, exactly.
Oftentimes we just need permission for us to step into the space that we most need.
Exactly. Exactly. That's the perfect word that connects the dot with my conversation with Sunrise, is that when I talk about my struggles of starting the podcast, where I was scared, I'm not a very good person speaking and all of that. And I was scared to do it. So I just did it in my bedroom. So I was telling Sunrise that. And so I gave her the permission that she
Mhm.
doesn't have to be perfect, that you just have to start. And so I gave her that freedom and inspired her, be like, all right, I don't have to be perfect. I'm just going to do it, start it. And so it's those little things that all connect the dots. So us being vulnerable will help somebody else realize, oh, they look like they're always put together, strong people. Nothing ever bothers them. Nothing ever tears them down. But you know what? People, like, really, we're struggling with things as well.
Yeah, no, so one, totally true, and two, and this is just for most people as well as ourselves, individuals who seem like they really have their stuff together. The individuals who are around us that seem like the strongest,
Mhm.
oftentimes need the most help.
Yeah, it is true.
Oftentimes
Yeah.
suffer in silence, and they won't share it because they don't
Yep.
want to burden others.
Yep.
You know? So I totally get it. and such a, such an important conversation to have. And it's just an awareness thing,
Yeah. Yeah.
really check up on each other.
Yeah.
I appreciated, while I was going through mine, you certainly sent a couple texts out checking up on me.
Yeah.
I appreciate all of it, but I will never, because of just who I am,
Mhm.
I will never reach out and instigate that.
Mm.
I will just sit here quietly, cry, whimper, be soft, whatever it is I need to do, I will do that on my own. And I will do that privately in my own space, and I won't necessarily share that with others. So the world doesn't get to see that. Oftentimes they get to see this very polished presentation of Gahrey Ovalle,
Yeah. Yeah.
but we all suffer. We
Yeah.
all suffer the same way.
We all do. Yeah.
And for those of us who appear the strongest, check on them the most.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I totally agree. I feel like I just saw that recently. Whereas like the people who you think are just fine and don't have those problems, they too need that help too. And you should check on those friends who seem like they have it all together, but they're suffering in silence.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly what happens.
Mhm.
And I am super guilty of that.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. I'm the same way. So like when people call me like, how are you? I tell them the truth. I'm fucking shitty. Every time I come on these recently, like, Linda, how are you? I am shitty.
Terrible.
It is the truth that I feel like that. I feel like shit. I might look like I've got it together. No, I'm fucking falling apart.
No doubt.
I am falling apart and I'm trying to keep myself together. And I'm pushing myself to, like, recently I'm having weekly conversations with certain people who I feel like have great wisdom to help along this process, and that'll help me and other people. So, right now it's Sunrise, right now it's Schiavo, and I feel like I want to put you in that mix as well. So Wednesdays work for you. We can have a weekly conversation, just to chat and follow up and see how we're doing.
Nice. That definitely works. I'm totally up for that.
Mhm.
I certainly could use it myself, kind
Yeah.
of coming out of all of this and getting
Yeah.
back into the swing of things and getting
Yeah.
used to talking and being here and setting up my lights and my microphone and everything else. And
Yeah.
like all of that, you have to get used to it again.
Yes, yes, it does. And like it's hard when you're in this space to push yourself to do it. Like
No
even
doubt.
before every weekly ones I have, I still having that anxiety of getting back on the camera and talking,
No doubt.
but it's interesting, and I really appreciate you having these conversations with me, because when we started these conversations, I mean, I know you and I know our pasts and I know how hard you pushed yourself, and I know myself, so I can see myself in you. So I will have these conversations in you, and I always want to ask, like, are you okay? How are you doing? Because when you keep pushing and keep pushing, eventually that stuff is going to come in.
Yeah.
Those feelings and like the layers of past stuff that's affecting you, and now that he's gone, you have to analyze all of those layers that made you the person you are. So that's really hard too.
Yeah, it is. And that's the part that takes time. And that's the part that there's no rush.
Yeah.
There's no rhyme or reason. There's no
Yeah.
one way to do it, whatever
But
works.
talking about it really helps. I don't know if you
Without a
are
doubt.
able to talk about it. Like that really helps me.
I don't. I honestly don't.
Mhm.
But it does help when I do.
Okay. Because I've opened up more through my years, and I've talked about a lot of my past and pain. And every time I talk about it, I feel like it helps me process it. It helps me find a new light to it. If, like, recently I was having a conversation with Sunrise, and I told her about a part of my life that then I just started bawling.
Mm.
Right. And obviously I'm not going to air that podcast. Maybe I'll edit it and put some of it out there. But I just started bawling because it was a really difficult time for me.
Yeah.
And see, I'm going to start crying.
No, I know. Take your time. I felt it in myself as I was talking to you earlier. My voice started to get weak. It started to quiver, it started to waver. It just, sometimes it comes. I started to feel the welling up in my own eyes, a little bit just a few minutes ago as we were talking. And I had to slow myself down.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah, it's a difficult thing. It'll take some time. And the beauty is that we have friends that we can talk to each other like this about. We can speak to each other, we can share this with each other. We don't attempt to hide it.
Yeah, shared it. But I don't think I've shared it with you. Some people who I just haven't shared it with yet, but I have like I have, I have put it out there. So you've never talked about it. You've never shared
Not,
your story.
not in like in bits and pieces,
Okay.
just like we've done in bits and
Yeah.
pieces,
Yeah.
highlight certain things, we'll dive into it. But in its entirety, kind
Yeah.
of bring the journey
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
my journey.
Yeah.
I've never shared that.
Yeah.
I just personally, I don't know if I'm ready to.
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean. I know.
It makes me weak. It's still like I feel so delicate
Yeah.
when I talk about these things.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. And that's why I gonna slowly put those bits of my story into a book. And there was someone I was watching a podcast who was a religious speaker, but she told the story, which was like my story. And I was like, wow,
Yeah.
the fact that she was able to stand there and tell this story, but then be confident and have processed it enough where she can be like, listen, I'm only telling you this story, how horrific it is, but just so you know that I've gone through this and I'm here to let you know that you can get through whatever it is that you're going through and give you like that light and permission and freedom to find your own healing and stuff like that. And so that's the only reason why I would want to come out with my story and help people. Like, I mean, I can tell you my story. Like, I was raped
Mm.
from the age and raped and molested from the age of probably between 3 and 5 to about sophomore year in high school. Raped and molested.
Mm.
And it wasn't like a one-time thing. He would probably do this weekly, nightly, whenever my mom would go to China. But any sort of chance he got to be alone, he would do it.
Mm.
So I would go to sleep petrified that he's going to rape me.
If you knew what was coming.
Yeah. So my entire life I've been raped.
Mm. Fuck, John.
So I have to just put on this covered face of being this fully put together woman.
Mhm.
Everything's fine. I'm going to get through it and push through it. So you would never know that, right?
No. No.
Like you have a devil that's living in your home and not only fucking rape you, he would hit you, he would fucking throw you across the room. He tried to kill me around 3 years old. Like he tried to kill me. So like that scar that I talk about was him trying to kill me.
Mm.
And I vividly remember him trying to kill me. And other times he would throw me on the cement. Like I have a scar on the back of my head. I think he just like threw me and threw my head on the cement. Like that's the kind of life I lived going home. Like I would never know what kind of mood he's in, what kind of monster he wants to be. Like to be constantly disregarded. So like, then what the fuck am I supposed to do now that I'm alone? I have another 3 years. So I wrote a letter to my father and said, if you do not stop abusing me, I am going to kill myself.
Oh.
But that's the extent that I had to threaten him. I mean, like I never wanted to kill myself, but what am I going to do if he actually didn't listen to my letter?
Yeah.
But that was the letter that got him to stop.
Wow.
But
your life,
yeah.
Things never leave us. It's not like we outgrow them. It's not like one day it no longer affects us. These things are traumatic, like my abuse was all physical, violent. It was verbal,
Yeah.
my father tried to kill us too many times to fucking count.
Yeah.
Right? Like we would all be holed up inside of a room in the house and he'd be outside the door
trying to get in,
going to kill you. And he would wait till we were all asleep and he would whisper these things into the door. Like nobody was awake. But at that time, I was a child. I was terrified. This is when I had insomnia, right? So going to school all day
Mm-hmm.
and staying up all night, going back
Because
all
you had
day.
to, oh my God.
And I did that. That was like 6 to 8, right? 6
Yeah.
to 8 years old.
Yeah.
You know? So it was difficult. Right?
Yeah.
My family was asleep at the time. I was awake, and I would hear these things. I wouldn't know how to protect my family, but I wanted to.
Yeah.
Hear the shit out of me.
Yeah. And you're the only one that heard this because you stayed up.
Because I just couldn't. The stress of all of that was killing me. Right?
Yeah.
Like I was like those years for me especially, they were just like I was so frail, I was so skinny, just
Yeah.
not eating, not sleeping.
Yeah.
My goodness, my family would take me to the doctors and they'd be like, look, everything seems pretty healthy. We don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
It's just the stress of it, and what child should have to deal with that?
What child should have to deal with that? Like, yeah, like he was physically abusive, mentally abusive. He would like degrade you. He would like tell you everything you're thinking is wrong, and like mental abuse, sit there for hours and lecture you. Like it was just like mental, physical, everything, just fucking bombarding you. Like, how do you sleep as a child?
It's like I said, it took me years. It took me years to get over it. And then finally find some normalcy. And so not for nothing, it was that point in time where I was coming out of it. I was finally starting to gain a little bit of weight.
Yeah.
And I was just so angry.
Yeah.
That my mother finally put me into football.
Yeah.
And I had an outlet for all of that anger.
Yeah.
And that's when I started to do better.
Yeah. Because now you can get that anger off, get it out.
Like people ask me all the time, like, man, how were you such a good athlete? How did you do all these things? I'm like, man, I was driven by fire and pain, and sadness and sorrow and anger. And I turned it all into anger and I let it out on the field. And this was the place where I was like, wait a minute, I can let out my anger and I'm not going to get in trouble.
Yeah.
I can go hurt that other individual and you'll actually praise me for it.
Yeah.
Fucking thank
God, I'll do that all day and every day.
Goodness, but who wants to grow up with that?
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, like you never leave that.
No, you haven't processed it. It's just.
And for me, I was always worried about taking that into like when it was time for me to raise my family. Because these things stick, they stay. Abused children become abusive adults.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I was terrified to be that kind of man for my children.
Yeah.
My wife. Yeah. So, trauma is tough.
It's really hard. It's really, really hard.
And then when they pass on, we're left with all of it.
Yeah.
And we have to kind of manage that, go through that, the flood of emotions of it, the flood of memories is the biggest trouble.
Yeah. Yeah. The memories of all of it. And
no doubt.
Then you ask like, why? Like, why would you do that?
Yeah, at that point in time, like I don't even ask why. I understood it because, again, just like I said, abused children become abusive adults.
Yeah.
When I started to review his childhood, I could see exactly where all of that came from.
Yeah.
And again, he was a child going through this, and he didn't know how to cope. And he came from a country that was very impoverished, and he didn't have very much resource. So he did the best he could with what he had. As an adult, as a parent, as a father, as a husband, I recognize some of his journey, where he struggled and where he tried to do different and where it didn't work.
Yeah.
Because he didn't have those mechanisms. He didn't have that support system. He didn't have any of those things. He had to figure it out on his own.
Yeah.
Literally on his own. His family gave him up to an orphanage.
Yeah.
And when they finally had enough money to feed him, they brought him back out. When they gave him up, they told him that his parents died. He came back out to find out everybody's alive. They just couldn't afford.
Oh my God.
That's a fucking terrible life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to have to go through that, how exactly does that translate into, as you become an adult, as you grow into the person you're going to be?
Yeah.
How does that weigh on you, and how does that show up?
Yeah.
And it's not hard for me to understand why and where
Mhm.
it came from,
Mhm.
but at the end of the day, we're left with the loss,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that's what we're going through.
Yeah.
I certainly feel it in moments. I was able to reconcile a lot with my father,
Mhm.
over the years, especially over these last 20, 25 years.
Yeah.
But I never dealt with
Yeah.
much of those things. I'll have time, I'll pick it up later. And then he passed, and I'm dealing with all of it now.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Because
know,
before you had to stay strong through the process of it.
Well, I could just leave it alone, thinking, well, he's still here. I don't have to deal with it. I'll pick it up later. I'll have a conversation with him. Maybe we'll have a couple, maybe whatever. Because you always think you got time.
Yeah.
We all think we have a lot more time than we do,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Yeah. Exactly.
and it comes up so quick. And when they do pass, like I said, those of us who are here, we're left with everything.
Yeah.
And then we have to pick up the pieces. And when I say the pieces, our pieces, like of
Yeah.
ourselves.
Yeah.
I have to pick up myself when I find myself just weeping,
Mm-hmm.
just standing in a room, sweeping a floor,
Yeah.
and just crumble into tears.
Yeah. Yeah. Like
Like,
I'll just find any moment, like even if I watch something on TV where the father's like, loving to a kid, and I'll just start weeping. I'll just start crying. I'm like, I'll never know what that is.
and that's just us. That's just our delicateness, um, and our ability to be honest about it and confront it. And it's all right. That's our journey.
Yep.
It makes us who and what we are,
Yep.
and we're going through it, and we'll continue to get through it because we don't
Yeah.
have to go through it alone, right? Like, I
Exactly.
always reach out to you. You can always reach out to me. We also have
Exactly.
others.
Exactly.
And as we have these conversations, we learn more. We learn to get past it. We learn to share it.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably one of the reasons I haven't shared it, because I've never shared. And the
Yeah.
first time that you share these things, like, it's so overwhelming. You can't even get it out. You got to
Yeah.
stop and start. It takes a while.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
more you share it, just not the easier it gets, but the easier it gets to share.
And you can breathe. I feel like
Yeah.
it helps you breathe, because if you're
Oh,
holding all of it inside and you haven't been able to share it, just saying a little bit of what you said, I'm sure if it feels like maybe you can breathe a little bit, like you've opened up a little bit of yourself.
yeah.
You know?
No. Yeah. So, but those things happen.
Yeah.
We Thank goodness we are as strong as we are.
Yeah.
Right? And in reality, the situations made us this strong.
Yeah.
And thankfully that we were surrounded by individuals that directly and indirectly, whether people knew or didn't know, they helped us get through.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And thank
Exactly.
goodness we had that in our life.
Yeah, exactly. Thank God we have like friends and teachers, or, family members who, even though they didn't know, or, did know, they helped us along the way, indirectly,
Yeah.
because you've always been there as a friend and support system, no matter what, even if you don't know what's happening with me. And even if I didn't know what was happening with you, you know, I could still see the drive and the pain, and
Mhm.
something that's a catalyst for that, you
Yeah.
know. And I've always wanted to speak to you about it, because I can see something there that, I wanted to tap into, because there has to be a reason why we push ourselves that much, you
Mhm.
know. There has to be something there that forces us to just keep going and keep going and pushing, but I'm glad that we can at least be there for each other now and talk about these things, because it weighs heavy on us. And I know, how you feel of like unpacking all of this, and just know that it's a process, and you just have to talk about it and just feel it, because a lot of people just cover it up, but feel it, cry it out, just let it all out. And it's okay that you feel vulnerable. It's okay that you're crying about it, and it's okay to talk about it.
Yeah.
And you know
No
because
doubt.
you have people who love you and care for you and want to hear those stories of it, because we want to understand you more in the pain that you went through, as a kid. Because like just like me, like I remember it has to be from age 3 to 5 when the abuse started, because I'm like, how, like I just remember that certain age where like how that's like your formative years
Mhm.
to be growing as an adult and growing as a child, and the things that you're collecting of like how your environment is and how your parents be treating you and how you feel safe. Like how does one grow up and not feel safe? Like I've never felt safe in my life. So when I go through traumas, I have panic attacks or I'll have like anxiety. I don't feel safe. I don't know what to do. I'll just have like I'll just freeze at times.
Mhm. No doubt. And that's part of our process, and that's all right.
Yeah. Yeah.
We'll take the time with it.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, it's been a journey. He just, for him, it was a rapid descent, and then he passed
Yeah.
hospice, and that was the end of that.
Yeah.
Um, and
How
it's
long was he sick, and then how long did
well,
he
he's
pass?
been, slowly sick for a while, but once we moved him into hospice, that was like at the beginning of the year, February, March, something like that.
Yeah.
May he passed, and that was the
Yeah.
end. It was really quick. But he was sick for a while leading up
Yeah.
to it. Um, and then, like I said, it's just a couple months ago, that he passed. He passes the day after my birthday, so
Oh
it's
wow. It's crazy.
like right there,
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's just something that's always going to be there, and it's a
Mhm.
difficult remembrance, but
Yeah. Yeah.
I imagine, like all things, easier easier to deal with over time.
Yeah.
Again, not that it gets easy, but you get stronger,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And we all get stronger over time,
Yeah.
and it becomes easier to deal with.
Yeah.
Not
Like, yeah, exactly. Like my mom passed around, I think 2 days after Christmas.
Hmm.
So every time, and her birthday's in November. So like as soon as November hits,
So
it's
this
like,
whole
okay.
holiday season coming up is
Yeah.
difficult.
So every time her birthday's November 2nd. So as soon as her birthday hits, and then it's December, she passed away. And then it's like this. So like it's like it just
And you're
goes
supposed to be
along.
celebrating in between this time, and you're supposed to be high even though you feel low. And yeah, it's difficult.
Yeah, it's difficult. And I feel like it took probably possibly like 5 years before it didn't hurt as much.
Yeah.
Like 5 years. And I'm like, really? Wow. Like it like all of a sudden 1 year it just didn't hurt as much. But it took like years. So I feel like it took maybe 5 years, probably around that time,
Yeah.
for it
I
to
tell
not.
you, on my birthday, I was in Albany.
Mhm.
We were doing a private viewing of a film that Morgan Freeman and his film crew did.
Oh, nice.
So I'm on stage with the children of the individual who had passed away, right? Because he did a movie about a gentleman in Westchester who was
Mhm.
murdered by Westchester police, right,
Mhm.
in his apartment.
Wow.
And this is just, how unfair police are in our communities, and the
Yeah.
dangers, that we have to take on,
Yeah.
when we call them inadvertently or not,
Mhm.
and I'm on stage with them. It's this beautiful private viewing. Morgan Freeman is on the screen. So we got a big movie screen behind me, Morgan Freeman, his whole production team. I'm interviewing them. We're talking about the loss of the Kenneth Chamberlain Jr. was the gentleman on the stage with me. And it was his father, Kenneth Chamberlain Sr., who had passed away. And we're talking about these things, and we're talking about how difficult that was. And I'm sharing with the crowd, before it started, I introed exactly how difficult this is and how cruel it is that he did not get to spend the time and say goodbye to his father, and how I'm going through that now with my father as
Mhm.
he's sick. And I have this time, and I've been saying goodbye. And to think that this man never had that opportunity is absolutely brutal and crushing and so painful. And we're having that conversation, and the very next day, that's it. My pops passes, and that was the end of it.
Wow.
You know,
Wow. Mhm.
so there was this incredible, joyful, beautiful moment. Like
Yeah.
Ian Morgan Freeman, like shit, you got an amazing voice. So do I. So I'm sitting here talking to him, and we're having this great time in this banter.
Yeah.
And And then there it goes. You're right into the loss of things, or right into the
Yeah.
sadness of things, or right into the difficulty of things. And how do you weigh those two things, next to each other?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
just very difficult. And at that point, I don't even I wasn't trying to understand anything. I
Mm.
was just receiving it and just let
Yeah.
it, whatever, good, bad, or indifferent. I'm not gonna let it weigh too heavy. Um, I'll receive it and I'll deal with it as I deal with things as I go, and we'll see what that looks like.
Yeah. Yeah.
But again, just those moments where you're supposed to be high, but then you feel so low.
Yeah. Yeah. It
Just
is a
very,
hard thing to process for us when we've handled things the way we've handled it. We just keep going. And we didn't have to probably feel all these heavy things as much as we do
yeah,
now.
no, definitely didn't. But that's kind of how we approach. That's how we
Yeah.
deal with things, and just like that, we're here. We're left with a few things, and we got a lot of work to do.
Yeah. Yeah, we do. We do.
Because we're left with it,
Yeah.
because we are the people who, attack and go getter and, got to get up and do things. We feel the need to overcome it.
Yeah.
And we feel the need to master it.
Yeah.
Um, it's just not how it works.
No, no. I think something nice that Sunrise had said to me today, she's like, just do one thing today. That's it.
Mm,
If you just do that one thing, that's okay.
yeah.
And that's all we need. Just do one thing. So today I did 3 podcasts. I've done 3.
Nice. No doubt. No
So
doubt.
I'm ahead of my one, but she's trying to really push me because she's like, Linda, are you doing your book? Like, what's up with your book? And I'm like, I know. She's like, just do 1 page. I'm like, all right, okay. So my goal for next week before I talk to her again, I have to do 1 page.
Well, even if you just start journaling, right? So you don't necessarily got to finish the page as long as you start journaling, because that's the most important part of any book writing process, the
Yeah.
journaling that happens before, because that helps you kind of
Yeah.
corral all your ideas.
Well, here's the funny thing is that when I talked to her, she's like, Linda, just write it, in your notes in your phone. I was like, well, honestly, I already have a Google Doc of memories and feelings and things in there. I already have like notes in my phone of memories and quotes that I've collected. And I have all of my art on my walls. So she's like, so Linda, so really, I was like, okay. So like the book's done. I just have to put it together.
So start putting it together.
So
We can
she's
put
like,
in your pieces and then you'll
yeah.
create.
So she's like, yeah, I was going to say that you probably have all the pieces. You're probably just thinking you need more, but really you probably have your whole book already. Like, so.
Yeah. Well, you'll definitely have much of it,
Yeah.
but there are pieces that as you put it together, you will recognize there's a transition that has to happen here.
Yeah.
There's a
Yeah.
bridge that I have to put in here. There's some further explanation that I need to.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's where the writing, starts to happen. And all of a sudden it's like, man, I thought I was done. And then I added another 20, 40, 50,000 words onto this thing that I thought was already finished. That will happen. It's a natural part of the process. Just roll with it.
Yeah.
And not all of it makes the final cut, right? So
Yeah.
you'll do more writing than actually makes the book.
Yeah.
Right? And that's okay too. That's part of the process. You got to go through.
Yeah. So like mine will be more of a art book. So I will have it like images, I'll have quotes, I'll have maybe like a essay. So it's going to be like a collage of my life.
That's nice. That's a nice way to put things together. You're not stuck to just, I got to do words from beginning to end.
But that's why, that's why I was stuck before, because I was thinking of it just words, and that's not who I am. So finally I gave that up and like, oh, I realized, no, that's not me. I am art. So the book will be an art book of my stories and my memories and quotes. So that puts the pressure off as much.
Yeah, no doubt. It creates and I tell this to my entrepreneurs all the time, create the thing that excites you.
Yeah.
Don't just create anything, because if you're creating things that you don't love, it's going to show, and your audience is going to recognize, man, she didn't really love this. So I don't feel the same way about it, Create things that excite you, and your audience will also be excited about receiving it.
Yeah, exactly. So what I love is art, and I love like the feelings I put into it. So the stories I will tell, I'll either use something I have or change it up to give you those feelings that I feel when I'm telling you that story. So I'll represent it in a piece of artwork near that story. And also you'll feel it and see it, and you'll hear why I'm telling you the story through my art as well. So you'll understand me more through it.
Ah, that's dope. That's dope. And that's a nice way. That's a nice way to write a book, to create a book, and that's a fun way.
Yeah.
So you can run through that project
Yeah.
fairly quickly. You just have to be ready to deal with the subject matter, because
Yeah.
that's when you get hung up. Like you start talking about something and all of a sudden it's like, man, why are my pages getting wet? Just crying on it. Like
Yeah.
many times when I was writing my book originally,
Yeah.
same thing. I was writing about things and I was thinking about experiences. And as I'm writing these things, all of a sudden it's like drip, drip, man,
Yeah.
that page is getting soggy. What are all
Yeah.
these drops on it?
Yeah.
Is it raining inside my room?
Yeah.
And no, it's just you going through your experience of what it
Yeah.
is you're writing about. And I wasn't, I was thinking about personal things as I was writing this, thinking about the journey I had getting here, what I'm doing with my children, where I want them to be. And those were the moments where it got emotional,
Yeah.
and not that I was writing, a memoir or anything like that. You've seen the book, but it takes some time.
But really, as you're speaking upon this, Gary, I actually see like maybe you should start writing little parts of your memoir and the experiences you had. Maybe that will help you also process and be therapeutic in your healing as well. And eventually that could be a book that you write, and also it will help others by hearing it and helps them overcome their struggles as well. But you don't
No,
have to,
I've
write
thought
it
of
for
it.
yourself right now. But if you ever want to publish it,
No,
you'll have pieces.
I am definitely I definitely intend to share it.
Hmm.
I intend to write about it. And as I've had a chance to think about it, over these last few years,
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that I want to write it as a
Yeah.
fictional story.
Hmm. Hmm.
So here it is. There's this beautiful story of something or other, this family growing
Yeah.
up, moving across, starting, in the Caribbean islands and
Yeah.
then moving over into the States, and kind of sharing it that way,
Yeah.
as a story.
Yeah. Yep.
Now I get to write it, and it does get to be very, reflective of my experience,
Hmm.
but I can share it in any way that I want, and I'm
Yeah.
not like stuck to the
Yeah.
actual parts
Yeah.
and
Because
pieces.
I feel like, yeah, that'll be more painful possibly for
Without
you.
a doubt, like,
Yeah, that'll be
man,
more
that's
painful.
things that way are tough.
Yeah. Yeah. That would be more painful.
Yeah, and I just don't know that if I don't know that I want to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to write it in a fictional way, you get to share the story as well as write this other amazing story inside of it. Like the pain of things is the sub story to the larger story.
Yeah. Yeah.
So at that point, I get to share it. It can be cathartic,
Yeah.
but I also get to share this whole other thing that I
Yeah.
want.
Yeah. There's like a little distance of it. So it doesn't,
Yeah, just create that
yeah.
separation.
Yeah.
This way I can have some creative latitude,
Mhm.
as I'm writing. I don't have to just stick to the facts and nothing but the facts.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Exactly.
can embellish in certain ways, and
And it'll be like healing, that you can embellish it in certain ways because you
yeah,
can change the story of how you would want it to be, or how the outcome could be, or whatever it is, and it'll be a healing aspect of it as well.
yeah, yeah. So that's exactly right. That's how I've thought about it.
Hmm.
When I think about my memoir and
Yeah.
how I want to write it, how I want to share it.
Yeah.
I have a few books in me that I want to get out. I'll just let it take its time. This
Yeah.
year, beginning of the year, I was on a tear. I was running through things,
Yeah.
knocking things out.
I
Um,
know.
I had this incredible pace and schedule. My
Yeah.
calendar booked in full,
Yeah.
and I was going to knock out every date. And then
Yeah.
all of a sudden, life happens, and I'm
Yeah.
like, "What? That calendar, burn it. I
Yeah.
don't even see what was on that calendar no more.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll pick all that up when I'm ready for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And maybe the order changes, maybe it doesn't, but I just right now that just it doesn't apply to me where I am in this moment.
In your healing process, and it's okay, and hopefully you're okay with burning that calendar and realizing this is your time to heal and work on your stuff. And right now my most important thing too is mental health,
Yeah,
soulful healing, mental health, all of it, and I'm okay with that.
yeah.
because it's needed, because I can't be good for anybody else until I'm
So you're good for you.
good for myself. Yeah.
No,
You know,
and that's part of the process, and that's what we learn. And thankfully, we have the ability to have conversations like this, right?
yes.
Like, not just between you and I, but you know, between you and others, between myself and others. Even though I
Yeah.
don't take them up on it very often,
Yeah.
I do have some of these conversations. I do share into some of those into some of those aspects. I just don't go so deep where I feel the pain and the
Vulnerable or feel,
conversation.
yeah.
You know?
Hmm.
Well, I'll certainly feel vulnerable, but again, I won't go so deep that I feel the pain
Mm,
as I'm talking. So this
yeah.
way it doesn't have to come out. I don't
Yeah.
have to overcome that while I'm trying to share a message or something like.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm always very cautious and careful about what I dive into and
Hmm.
how deep I dive into my own space, because it is, for me, it's still very traumatic. I have not dealt with it in my lifetime.
Yeah.
It still makes me feel incredibly vulnerable and
Yeah.
sad and delicate.
Yeah.
So I'm very cautious about approaching those subjects and having them, because I know it takes my breath away.
Yeah.
It really does.
Yeah. 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 And like sometimes, just like we were just talking about a second ago, it'll just overtake me. If I just say it, I'm like, oh, now
Yep.
there comes the waterworks, there comes the tears. So I'm trying to get us to a space where I do talk about some of my stuff, where I don't have to get into those tears. And
No, I tell you the truth. I don't think there's any way for us to really share these things without getting into them.
yeah. Yeah.
You can never get to that level of healing without going through the tear, going through the pain, going through the emotion of it.
Yeah.
We just have to have a really safe space in which to do that.
Yeah.
And that's where like circles are, these containers that we create of
Hmm.
people and places. We create that safe space,
Hmm.
and then all of a sudden we can let out,
Yeah.
and others can let out.
Yeah.
And just like that, yeah, it was a very emotional room, but we've all grown stronger and closer and better.
Yeah.
Right? And we just have to do that over and over again until eventually it's like, man, I'm feeling pretty good. I can kind of get this story out without all the hiccups and the crying and all the other good stuff. And
Yeah.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
it still makes me feel emotional, but it no longer overwhelms me.
Yeah. Yeah. It
I
doesn't
still
overtake
feel the
me
pain of
anymore. Yeah.
it. It's okay. We can feel the pain because we experienced it. We
Yeah.
lived it. Part of our life. It's who we are. It's our character. It's in our DNA. But it no longer overwhelms us to that capacity. And that's the beauty of sharing these things in a safe space. We
Yeah.
just have to create that.
Yeah, exactly. And this is it.
Yeah. No doubt. No doubt.
Right? So what are you doing for yourself to help you in this healing process, like daily or till the
Uh,
end of the year? What kind of things are we going to do to make the best of our 2022?
one, I keep myself busy,
Mhm.
just doing things. I've fucking done more laundry than I could fucking remember. It's like, my goodness, I did cleaning,
Yeah.
unbelievable. You do all these things to keep busy. Um, and at times I'll do absolutely nothing,
Hmm. Hmm.
absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
I will I will take my time to sit and reflect and maybe just sit outside and watch the birds and
Yeah.
whatever it is, right? I put myself on sabbatical.
Good. Yeah, that's me. I've been on sabbatical for a couple years now.
Nice.
I don't know. I don't know how many more couple years I need, but I feel like
Yeah,
the book will be part of my freedom and healing. I just need to start it
for
and
sure.
just start printing it out and start that one page. Once that one page hits, I mean, like I realize that in my process when I do art commissions for people too, I'm
Mhm,
thinking about it and thinking about I'm processing what kind of commission piece I'm going to do. But
mhm.
really, I always know this when I do. As soon as I start, then I'll know what to do.
Yeah,
It's the starting part that gets me stuck sometimes, like
yeah,
I don't know what to do. But if once I start, the rest of it just follows,
yeah,
you know? So
yeah, no doubt. So that's exactly right. And so that's what I've been doing. I've just been taking time. I am not trying to dictate it or control it. I'm
yeah,
not trying to manage it. I'm
perfect,
allowing
perfect.
it to be.
Well, I'm with you. I'm with you.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
am with you on that process.
And then again, like I said, I stay busy, so not just in the house, but I've been working with a friend of ours, helping him put together this event space and this event company, and
Yeah.
we're throwing some really good stuff now. I have already applied, inside of the cannabis space, for licensing and preparing myself, for that.
Yeah.
Just looking forward at how I'm going to grow and where I'm going to take my industry and business, and where's the next market, that I'm going to jump into and take advantage of and make a bunch of money off of, right? Like, what am I doing and how am I setting myself, and what can I do in this moment that doesn't require a lot of work, but it allows me to do some prep work, maybe. Right? And that's what I've been doing a lot.
Yeah, a lot of prep work.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I love it. And we'll follow up again. We'll do a weekly chat just to see how both of us are doing.
No.
Right?
And these are great, one, just to catch up, and then two, as I started to map and plan our conversation, right? Just that it's the end of the year, it's time to get your house in order, right? And this is from a business perspective, an entrepreneur perspective, what does that look like? And what are some of the things we can share, to the audiences so they can get themselves on track and take advantage of? So I put together a conversation here. We can probably run through it. I just wanted to
put up a link on here for everybody to see, and their Instagram handle. What Instagram should they follow for all of this information?
They should definitely go to New York Cannabis Group. That's NY Cannabis GRP.
Okay.
Cannabis Group. And that's, the Instagram handle. All the information is there. Flyers are there. Our registration link for more information it's a bit.ly link. bit.ly/great N grass, all lowercase.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for joining me here today, and we will see you next week for our next catch up.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you.